outset, I am thankful to Dr. Puspaji, Dr. Pranjal, Dr. Rasmi, Amravati team, AMOX, for inviting me, awarding this prestigious oration. I have no words to express my feeling. I am honored. I feel myself very lucky when I awarded such a prestigious oration dedicated to such a legendary gynecologist, great academician. I feel myself very blessed as Foxy gave me an opportunity to work for the upliftment of women and Foxians in India. I feel myself loved one. I could not come last time to Amravati because my daughter was having dengue fever. But even though they gave me an opportunity, I always feeling like that I am a part of Amravati society. So from such a distance, for giving me this feeling, I feel myself very much loved. I feel honored, loved, fortunate, blessed. Thank you very much, Amravati and AMOX, for giving me this prestigious oration. I have selected the topic. Usually, you must have heard me many times for many clinical topics. This time I selected the topic because I want to discuss a topic. Sorry. I think we all should know what is going on in our country in obstetrics. I want to speak something about what I have done work. The theme for this year is safety for women and Foxian, and I think this is very much related to the theme of this year. This brings safety to both because many pregnant women die because of a non-availability of critical care. At the same time, doctors are become victims because of reasons which are not in our hands, like poor infrastructure. So I think this is a very appropriate topic for this theme and for today's this theme for the conference also. I dedicate this oration to my patients because of whom I can learn critical care in obstetrics and high-risk pregnancy, and because of whom I could develop interest in critical care in obstetrics. As I mentioned, the theme for this year is safety first for Indian women and Foxians, and this topic is very much relevant to the theme. We all work since long for the safety of our patients, but this year we want to concentrate much on improving infrastructure, and these are the different ways on which we would like to work, and one of the project is providing quality and critical care by upgrading labor room and obstetric HDU ICU in India. So I selected the topic. In 189 nations made a promise to their people to make them free from poverty and multi-deprivations. One of the goal was MMR, to reduce MMR. During those days, the MMR of India was nearly 400, and India was required to reduce it to 109 by 2015. Various efforts were done. At that time, our priority was to bring more and more women to the hospital because of the hospital delivery, for the safe delivery. During those times, the hospital delivery rate was only 27%. So various schemes were introduced in our India. Janani Suraksha Yojana was one of the schemes which has brought revolution in our country. And the hospital delivery rate, which was 27 in 2000, has increased to 85% in 2015, and now it is nearly 89%. As here we can see, maternal mortality rate, as the hospital delivery rate was improving, maternal mortality rate was improving in our country. It has reduced from 400 to 178 by 2011. Every year it was improving by 15 to 20. But after 2011, the pace of improving in maternal mortality rate was stopped. As here you can see, in 2013 it was only 167, and in 2015 it was only 165. So after 2011, it has stopped to, though more and more women are reaching to the hospital for hospital delivery, even though the MMR rate was not improving. So why this observation? Why the rate was not improving? Now there are two types of mothers were dying: those who could not reach to the hospital, dying at home or during transportation. And others, majority of women are now reaching to the hospital and they are dying. Why mothers are dying at our hospital? As per the unpublished survey in India, maternal mortality rate in hospital delivery is somewhere between 60 to 70, which is 3 to 4 times higher than the maternal mortality rate in developed world. Now in Europe, many of the European countries, it is even less than 4. So why this much big gap in maternal mortality rate in hospital delivery? Because of lack of quality obstetric health care. Maternal mortality is just the tip of an iceberg, and there is a vast unseen base which is known as the near-miss cases. And as per the WHO, the incidence of near-miss cases is 8.23% in 2013. Moreover, India is one of the countries having highest incidence of pregnancy-related complications. But the sad part is case fatality rate is significantly high in India. Incidence of placenta acrita is very high in, in developed countries, but its case fatality rate is nearly 10% in India. Why this much high case fatality rate in our hospitals? A disheartening fact is India and Nigeria account for 1/3 of all women dying from pregnancy-related complications across the world. And it is estimated that approximately 46% maternal deaths, 40% of the stillbirths, and 40% of newborn deaths take place on the same date of delivery. It means nearly 40 to 50% of the women and pregnant lady and newborn mortality, out of the mortality, 40 to 50% occurs during the 24 hours of the labor itself. So why so many mothers are dying in our labor room or during the immediate postpartum period, and so many neonates are dying? This all because of the lack of quality obstetric healthcare once critical complication occurs. One of the study published in Lancet, it also showed that once the critical complication occur in low resource countries, the case fatality rate is significantly high. So this is all because of the lack of quality obstetric healthcare in our hospitals, in our setups. Then what is the quality obstetric healthcare? It is the use of sophisticated state-of-the-art equipment and technology, facility of invasive monitoring, facility of immediate life-saving intervention, facility of skill-based services, and facility of skilled and experienced persons, and facility of 24 hours monitoring. But all this can be accomplished only in a setup of obstetric ICU and not in routine floor. But everywhere in smaller towns and smaller cities and smaller hospitals, ICU is not viable. So the concept of HDU comes, where high-risk patient can be admitted in HDU. It is high dependency care unit. And when patient becomes critically ill, they can be shifted to the ICU. So we can say HDU are like intermediate care units also. If they are taken care and if situation is improved, then can be shifted to the routine floor. Then what is the ICU? Obstetric ICU is an ICU which is dedicated to manage only obstetric patients having critical obstetrical complications, medical complications, or surgical complications, managed by staff oriented for obstetric physiology and pathology. Destiny must have thought something special for me. During those days, I was the practical obstetric committee chairperson. I got an opportunity to move across India, and we came to know about the deficiency of these critical care units in our country. And this is the time where FOGSI has understood and identified the importance of obstetric HDU ICU to reduce the maternal mortality rate further. And FOGSI has decided to sensitize its members and policy stakeholders. We must never limit our challenges. Instead, we must challenge our limits. So we begin to work at all the levels. Initially, we begin to sensitize and update our members by conferences and workshops, and Till today, we have organized 7 conferences on critical care in obstetrics. This is the time where FOGSI declared its policy statement in 2013 about the importance of obstetric HDU in obstetric care, which is still there on our website. This is the time we have decided to reach to the universities. We call a meeting of 11 reputed universities, vice chancellors of, and it was a very fruitful meeting. And now at 3 to 4 universities, the course has been also started of critical care in obstetric. We also work at ICOG level, and now we have our own course, certificate course on critical care in obstetrics. We also decided to work at the media level wherever the conference we were organizing, and we have received very great coverage and support from the electronic and print media. Here we can see FOGSI pushes for the HDUs. Again, FOGSI's High Dependency Unit initiative, help at hand for high-risk pregnancies. FOGSI's new initiative to reduce maternal mortality rate. More special units needed, says Gynec. High-risk pregnancy में सुरक्षा कवच जैसा है OICU. So, Hindi media, English media, national media, local media, electronic media, print media, all gave good coverage and they understood the importance. We decided to work at the state level. We started to meet health ministers of different states, and Assam was the first state to start obstetric HDU, then the Gujarat. Then we decided to work at the central level, and Government of India at the end agreed principally for the need of intensive care units for critically ill obstetric patients. Initially there were great debate and there were resistance because they were arguing that we have MICU, you can admit your patients in MICU, and why you want OICU. There was a great debate on that. But at the end, we could convince them why MICU, we cannot manage our patients in MICU, because whenever we need to ship the patient to labor room and operation theater, MICU is not nearby it. Obstetric HDU ICU is a part of obstetric department, and we know that the shifting of obstetric patient is very difficult. We can easily ship them. NICU is nearby, so neonate can be taken care. And we have 2 patients, mother as well as fetus. Here also the theme is mother and fetus for this conference. So fetal monitoring is not possible in MICU. In MICU, experienced full-time obstetrician is not available. Staff is not acquainted with the obstetric pathology and physiology and complications. Hospital acquired infection rate is less in obstetric department compared to MICU. And most important thing is, in MICU, primary objective is critical care and obstetric care is secondary, whereas in obstetric ICU, it ensures adequate provision of obstetric and critical care simultaneously. And because of this, ultimately, Government of India convinced, they have decided to go ahead with the establishment of obstetric HDU ICU across India. And they form a group of 7 experts across India. I was made an expert, head of the group, and then we come out with the guidelines, which was published in March 2016 by Government of India. It was sent to all the states for its further implementation. It is there on the website. All the states had sent letters to all the medical colleges to take it further. Now it is made mandatory for all the medical colleges. And I am happy to share that now, till today, there are more than 250 public sector institutes across India have their own fully functioning dedicated obstetric ICU, HDU ICU. Before 2013, no institute was having this as per the guideline. Now, after 2013, we have our own guideline. We have our own guideline of operational guideline also. We have fully functioning obstetric HDU ICU. We have courses running by some of the universities. Now it is also included in the curriculum. There is a special chapter on critical care in obstetrics. Now Government of India has also published the operational guideline in 2017. And the most important thing is, second revolution after Janani Suraksha Yojana has occurred in Indian obstetrics is, Government of India has revised the health system model for maternal health in India. Previously it was 3-tier, stillbirth attendance, basic emergency care, and comprehensive emergency obstetric care. Now HDU ICU are included. So this is how this is the journey and how the critical care in obstetric units has reached at all the levels in India, and these facilities become reality in India. And now Government of India has decided to totally has decided to have 500 obstetric HDU ICU by the end of 2020 and total 700 obstetric HDU ICU in all the medical colleges, government hospitals and district hospital by 2021. So by the end of 2021, we will have 700 obstetric HDU ICU to save our mothers, and it is now our responsibility to provide 700 experts to run those critical care units. It is our responsibility as a main policy stakeholder to provide this expert to our country. When patients are admitted in HDU ICU, why care is better in HDU and why we cannot manage those patients in routine floor? Because there is a better patient and nurse ratio. In HDU, it is 1:2, wherein in ICU, it is 1:1, so the care can be taken well. When patient require close monitoring, support patient is having severe preeclampsia, we require severe monitoring of urine output, blood pressure monitoring. Everything is not possible in routine floor, and sometimes just because patient is lying in routine floor where 50, 70 patients are there, and just not monitor properly, patient may develop acute renal failure. Some complications can be easily avoided, can be prevented if they are admitted in obstetric HDU. So this is why it's important, and care can be taken better when they are admitted in HDU ICU. Again, as per the guideline, there should be in-house or nearby NICU. There should be fully equipped laboratory, because when patient is in HDU ICU, we may require a frequent blood and urine investigations. And also there should be in-house blood bank facility or nearby blood bank facility with the availability of the components. We all know the importance of the components when patient is having complications, when patient require massive blood transfusions. We require many units of blood and we require many components. So when patient is in HDU ICU, care can be taken better. Components are easily available. At the same time, monitoring is also possible when they are in HDU ICU. So we can save those mothers and patients. We understand when patient is critically ill, patients require a proper administration of drug, which is not possible in routine floor. We may require infusion pump and syringe pump to administer the drug at a proper time, at a proper dose. We require suction machines, wall mounted. We require machines for the monitors like glucometer, cardiac monitor, CVP monitor, pulse oximeter, multipara monitor, which is not routinely available in our hospitals, but it is there on HDU ICU, so patient can be managed better. We require all life-saving drugs on the crash cards, and we require central oxygen supply, which is also not there in routine floor. For the fetal monitoring, we require color Doppler and fetal echo facility and CTG machine. All these are there in HDU ICU. And again, when patient becomes, there's a life-threatening complication, and it's a situation of life-saving, we do not have the life-saving technology and machines in routine floor, which are there in the HDU ICU, like BiPAP, defibrillator, AED, ventilator. Just by giving shock, many times patient can survive and can live many, many more years. And now, across the India, wherever you go, any railway station, any airport, AED machines are there. So it's our duty to know what is AED and how it is functioning and how it should be applied. So AED machine, a simple thing, a defibrillator, very simple to give shock, but by giving shock or by AED, we can survive patient and patient can live long for many, many more years. But this is not available in routine floor, so we cannot survive those patients. We all know that when patient is having placenta previa, PPH, HELP, DIC, hemolysis, coiler uterus, placental abruption, these all patients require close monitoring, massive blood transfusion, rupture ectopic, hysterectomy, rupture uterus, perforation during abortion cannot be managed post-op. Complications are more, post-operative follow-up and monitoring is required. Sepsis can deteriorate very fast. Burns during pregnancy can lead to preterm delivery and can lead to hypovolemic shock. So monitoring of all these patients, it is difficult to manage, may require multidisciplinary team when patient is having jaundice or dengue or diabetes mellitus. So it is not possible for multidisciplinary team work, close monitoring, life-saving technology, everything is not there in routine floor. And that is why these are the patients who require admission in obstetric HDU and ICU. So when patient is having hemodynamic instability, respiratory dysfunction, neurological complications, acute kidney injury or hematological complication, or when patient requires single organ support, should be admitted in HDU. But when patient require 2 or more organ system support, invasive monitoring, ventilatory support, inotropic support, massive transfusion, renal replacement therapy, multidisciplinary teamwork, they should not be admitted in HDU, they should be admitted directly to the obstetric ICU. So there are clear guidelines when patients should be admitted in routine floor, when should be admitted on HDU, and when patients should be admitted in ICU. Again, these are the vital data and parameters on which we should decide which patient should be admitted, which suppose a patient is having diastolic blood pressure less than 50, or when the patient is having heart rate less than 60, should be admitted in HDU. But when such patient develops this type of vital data or these laboratory values, when pH is outside the range of 7.1 to 7.7, or when the respiratory rate is outside the range of 8 to 35, these are the patients should not be kept even in HDU. These are the patients should be directly admitted in ICU, can be managed better in ICU. So if patient is in HDU and develop this type of vital data or the laboratory values findings, then they should be shifted to the ICU. And now why day by day high risk pregnancy incidence is increasing? Because today more and more often pregnancies are possible after treatment of gynecological, surgical and fertility problems. Incidence of cesarean section increases because of this incidence of abnormal presentation, because of this incidence of placenta previa, and because of this combination of placenta previa and previous cesarean section increases, and because of this placenta accreta incidence increases, and now accreta is 1 in 500 deliveries, which once it was 1 in 30,000 deliveries. So case fatality rate is 10% in placenta accreta. So we can understand how much it has contributed increase in the cesarean section rate, increase in ART pregnancy. Because of this, there can be a critical complications of OHSS, early complications because of the elderly patients, incidence of multiple pregnancy increases, interventional procedures increases. So because of all this, high-risk pregnancy increases. Now preterm delivery, across the world incidence of preterm delivery increases. Across the world incidence of HDP, hypertension disorder in pregnancy increases. Now India is the capital of diabetes mellitus, incidence is somewhere between 3 to 7%. HbA1c, it is less than 7%. The incidence of congenital abnormality can be as high as 25%. Now the guidelines for the CPR is also changed, but recently the latest change which we should know is, which directly affect us is, if she does not revive, once patient is having sudden cardiac arrest, and if she does not revive and gestational age is more than 22 weeks, then patient should be immediately, we should perform within 3-4 minutes. If she does not revive, then immediately we should perform perimortem cesarean section, which is now known as the resuscitative cesarean section. So there are lots of changes occurring in our obstetric practice. Now there is increase in the viral infections. We all know that the pregnancy with H1N1 swine flu incidence is increasing in India. We all know that now the management of the shock is also changes. Now fluid resuscitation is very, very important. And for fluid resuscitation, we need to push the fluid in bolus, and bolus means 500 to 1000 ml of fluid should be pushed within 50 to 30 minutes, which is not possible in routine floor. It can be possible in HDU, ICU, and after bolus of fluid, we should assess whether patient is fluid sensitive, there is an effect of fluid resuscitation or not. So according to the management is changing. And similarly now sepsis criteria are changed, definition is changed, lots of changes are also occurring in changes. Now the criteria is hypotension less than 100, altered mental status or tachypnea more than 22. If any two criteria are there out of these three, then there is a greater risk for poor outcome. Now court is allowing MTP more than 22 weeks, and we are also promoting, advocating for the MTP at 24 weeks or more than it. So now at MTP at more weeks, again criticality is there. Elderly patient more than 35 years becomes common in career-oriented couples. Incidence of GDP, as we have mentioned, is increased. Hypothyroidism is again like an epidemic, and we all know that the incidence is very, very high in our country. Incidence of medical disorder in pregnancy also increases. Now we are also allowing pregnancy after balloon mitral valvotomy. If ejection fraction is more than 40%, then we are allowing pregnancy. So these all interventional, these all surgeries, because of all this transplantation and other incidence of high-risk pregnancy and critical care in womb obstetric increases. Now we are also allowing pregnancy in transplanted patient. Now there is a role of prophylactic dialysis, which is not possible in routine floor, and these are the high-risk patients, can be managed better in HDU ICU. So when such patients are admitted in HDU ICU, initial assessment of condition is done, immediate resuscitation is done, baseline specific investigations are carried out, and monitoring is started. When patient is obstetric HDU ICU, a non-invasive hemodynamic monitoring is possible, cardiovascular monitoring possible, respiratory monitoring, mainly ABG test, is possible, renal function monitoring is done, and if required, neurological imaging is also possible when patient is admitted in HDU ICU. And when patient is in HDU ICU, inotropic support, blood transfusion, invasive monitoring, anti-hypertensive, anti-convulsant, oxygen therapy, fluid balance can be done, electrolyte correction can be done, pain management can be taken, nutritional management can be done. So all this possible, and when patient is high risk or critically ill, patient requires all these types of monitoring and all this type of management, which is not possible in our routine floor, and that is why these type of patients require admission in obstetric HDU ICU. So this was the journey, concept and requirement about the obstetric HDU ICU, and ultimate when management depends on the underlying clinical condition, and multidisciplinary teamwork is very, very important. So this is the need and which type of patient and why it is required. But what is the impact in our country? Following the advent of the HDU, the need for mechanical ventilation became the major indication. Previously, for the admission in obstetric HDU ICU, hemodynamic instability was the #1 indication. But now, because of the advent of the HDU, these patients are managed and can be taken care, and these patients are when they become improved, they are shifted back to the routine ward, general ward, and they do not require admission in obstetric HDU or ICU. So previously, lots of patients were admitted in ICU just because of the hemodynamic instability. But now, because of the availability of the HDU in our country, the admission rate in the ICU decreased by 1/3. And the patients, those who can be managed better in HDU by close monitoring, are admitted in HDU, so the burden and financial liability and the total cost of treatment also decreased by 1/3. This is one study was carried out by the Practical Obstetric Committee of FOGSI in 4 states, in 4 institutes where the obstetric HDU ICU are available. Total delivery was 52,641. Admission rate was 2,555. Utility rate was 4.85%. This study was conducted in 2016. And now in 3 years, with more and more awareness about the utility of obstetric HDU ICU, it is expected that the rate will increase to 7 to 8%. And these are the hospitals. Again, here in Surat, hospital admission rate was in HDU was 8.1%. In Delhi, it was 4%. In Jamnagar, it was 6.17%. In Jabalpur, it was 10%. So these are the data collected from few. Now we have data, so many data of nearly 40, 50 hospitals, but because of lack of time, I am not going in data of all these studies, but lots of changes occurred because of the advent and because of the availability of obstetric HDU ICU in our country. Now previously the PPH and hemodynamic instability was the main indication for the admission. Now here we can see HTP is #1 and hemorrhage is 2nd, and sepsis and anemia are there. These 2 slides are the most important slide of this presentation. This is the study of Surat Medical College, and I have collected data of 2 years, 1 year prior to the advent of the HDU ICU facility and 1 year after the HDU ICU facility. And now you can see all the causes of the mortality for APH. Mortality was 2.2, has reduced to 0%. PPH, which was 5.9, within a year it has decreased to 2%. HDP, which was 2.9, has decreased to 0.8%. Severe anemia, which was 1.1, decreased to 0.4%. Jaundice, it was having the highest mortality because of the jaundice, 16.1%, has decreased to 4.9%. Heart disease, which was 7%, decreased to 1.5%. And total, which was 3.3%, was decreased to 0.9%. So in a single year, just because of the establishment of obstetric HDU ICU and patient were admitted in this HDU ICU, the maternal mortality rate has decreased significantly to 60 to 70%. So this is very, very significant improvement. We can say a second revolution has occurred after Janani Suraksha Yojana in our country. Again, these are the data of Maharashtra itself in Wardha Medical College. And again, here we can see for 1 year before and 1 year after the advent of the obstetric HDU ICU, the mortality because of APH, which was 7.1, has decreased to 0%. Mortality because of PPH 2.9 has decreased to 1%. HDP 4.4 to 0.9%. Jaundice from 25% to 3.2%. Heart disease was not much improved. So ultimately here also it was from 5.9% has decreased to 1.9%, significant 60 to 70% improvement, just because those are the patients who require admission for the HDU ICU were admitted in HDU ICU facility. Now because quality obstetric healthcare is available for them, 60 to 70% mothers we were able to survive. And now government of India, when going outside of our country and presenting data, they are very satisfactory and with proud. They are always presenting these data across the world, and across the world they are getting appreciation. And now SAFOC countries also wanted HDU ICU. So in conclusion, a dedicated obstetric ICU with experience and expertise of obstetrician and specialized team would be the best place to monitor and treat high-risk and critically ill obstetric patients. They are complementary to each other. It allows continuity of antenatal, intrapartum, postnatal care at the same place by the same team. Every year, 3,000 pregnant women die in the world as per the WHO 2015. And it is also said by WHO that if quality obstetric healthcare is provided in time, then we could save 80% of these pregnant women. That means 204,000 women out of these 3,33,000 can be easily, we can survive them, we can save them if quality obstetric healthcare units we can make available across India. A big section of society in our country is still unreached, underprivileged, deprived of the benefits of life-saving technology, infrastructure, and it is our moral duty as a main policy stakeholder and main women's healthcare taker. It is our responsibility and moral duty to see that this technology and this infrastructure become available to all those segments. So in conclusion, safe maternity is viewed as a basic human right. It is not a commodity for the privilege only. Obstetric HDU ICU means a concept, a setup, an establishment, a facility. Quality obstetric healthcare is a vital backup need of the mother for the safety of mother to save the mothers. And being FOGSI, a main policy stakeholder, our role is the prime to save our mother. So we should do lots of advocacy to all the government, state government, all the media, everywhere, even in the private sector, to establish more and more units. Let us work together for FOGSI 2020 theme to achieve SDG goal for our country, and let us take the flags of FOGSI and India onward and upward. A big, big thank you to all of you for being with me and giving me this opportunity. I hope every time I am speaking on some clinical topic, but I think we all should know what is going on in our country and what is the also importance of the infrastructure. So I selected the topic. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and being with me. A big, big thank. Take care of yourself. Thank you.